Hey y'all, Data Guy here. And today I had a video I wanted to make on how you can create an ETL pipeline using Airflow, Azure Data Factory, and Azure Postgres. And really just kind of want to use this as a template for if you're managing a lot of different Azure services together, using Airflow to manage ADF kind of pipelines. You'll see I'm almost treating pipelines just as individual tasks. So this is, if you watched my previous video on how to use ADF, it's talking more about how to use ADF and more, so go reference that if you need it. But this is just more about, hey, if you're using Airflow in conjunction with it, you can use Airflow to kind of layer on a lot of the logic, on the triggering, a lot of the programmatic controls that you can't really do with ADF because it's pretty limited in like the complexity of the functions you can actually do on it. It has its own expression builder, but I've really had some struggle with it. So what I like to use it for is just simple copy actions and then kind of use Airflow to perform some of the higher level logic and orchestrate these workflows because the triggers also in ADF are just very lacking. I have a lot of issues with it, but it is good because it is able to really quickly use the Azure Rails to move your data between services faster than having to call from like hey, load file from one to the other with an Airflow task. And having to reference those two services, and it uses the public internet to actually route the data between them. So here, if you just kind of look at the data to see what we're going to build here, just a simple ETL pipeline where we're going to just have a dummy operator start, ingest some data, transform it, and then store it in an Azure Postgres database. So without further ado, I'll go start creating our instance, show you how you can build an environment, how you can set up Azure Data Factory to perform some of these jobs, and then how we'll string it all together. And if you like these videos, please like and subscribe. Really appreciate it. Really, really helps me out a lot. So first, I actually want to show you just kind of what we'll be setting up in Azure Data Factory. So the first thing we'll have is just a load data pipeline, and you'll see here what I have is a source that is, if I preview the data here, you'll see I have a data, or sorry, no, sorry, not load data, customer extraction. This is the one I want to use. So here, if I look at the source, this is actually just a API request that I'm using. So if you preview the data, this is just hitting an API endpoint. I loaded this in GitHub. That's going to get the CSV and then store it in an Azure container service. And so if I open this up just on the right here, you'll see you can define these just by using the HTTP method. You have your relative URL. And then, so if I test the or edit the connection here, see raw GitHub user content, and then it'll append my customer endpoint on there to the end of it. So then if I go into customer extraction, you'll see I have my get method here, where if I open it, you will see my customer churn records. So yeah, under astronaut Yates, Azure Data, main customer churn records. So that's just perform my get method. Then I have my clean data, so my second task, which is going to be taking data from that temporary blob storage that so actually, sorry, if you have a sink here, this is where you'll have your sink. This is just an Azure blob storage, which again, you add the same. So this is also why I like it, is you can just, or using ADF to perform these jobs, is because if you want to add a new connection, you can just say, hey, perform to add blob storage, and it'll actually allow you just to pull from your existing subscription. So you don't have to, have or define all the connection details in Airflow, because with Azure, you actually have to create different connections for different services. So if you use ADF to actually manage all the other services, you can just kind of leverage, hey, this is really good for the connections, but Airflow is really good with the logic. Use them together, you got a thing of beauty. So here I can pull from a particular data set. In this case, I'm just storing in my regular customer data. Then I have my source, so pulling from temp blob storage. And then here, what I'm doing is just saving it in as a clean data, and I just deleted some columns. So if you're just dropping map or different columns, what you can do is down here, just literally delete a column, and it will be deleted from the sync destination. So super useful. And then you can also, choose copy behavior, define parameters here. And then finally, under load data, taking it from that blob storage, and we're bringing it into our Postgres database. So here again, example of, hey, this is just an easier way to actually connect to Postgres. It's because I can just go right into my Azure subscription, select the server from a drop-down menu, and then just connect to it kind of via a interface. So super useful here. And then that's all you need to do on the ADF side. So just use the graphical interface for what it's good at, which is just leveraging these Azure connections. And now let's go start building our Airflow environment so that we can actually string together a pipeline out of all these individual tasks. So here, starting like we do now in our videos, creating an Airflow environment from scratch. So first, we're just going to cd into our data guide directory. Then we're going to make a new directory, ETL ADF, cd into that new ETL ADF folder, astro dev init, create all our different files. You can see that here. And then we're just going to open that within our VS Code environment. So here, desktop, data guide video repos, ETL ADF, and then the requirements you're going to need to install. So this is using an Astro image. So all you'll need to actually install is just the Azure Providers package, and then that's it. So just bring in the Azure Providers package, save it in your requirements file, and then if you want to obviously edit anything else, you can go through that as well. But all you need to do now on the Airflow side is just create your DAG. So if we then go into our DAGs folder, new file ADF ETL, switch it up, right? And then here, we're just going to import the ADF operators that we actually need. So here we are going to copy and paste a lot of these operators. So initially, and the reason why I'm making this video and just kind of using ATF is initially I was going to use a bunch of different Azure operators for this, but I found out it's actually a lot easier just to use ADF for all the connections. And because ADF has the most interactability like from external services that I can tell of the Azure options, which makes sense. If you're just using the Cosmos operator was a nightmare to try and use. Container instances one isn't as bad, but it just makes a lot more sense to use the data factory operator to kind of interact with them or move data between them rather than using their own individual operators, which is almost counterintuitive. And then after we've imported our necessary packages, we're just going to save a couple different variables here. We're going to set some default arguments, just some basic ones, open Airflow, tell it not to email us. And then here, what we'll do is create our new DAG. So with DAG, Azure Services DAG, we have our default args, description, schedule interval, just all boring stuff that you don't actually need to care about. And then here, what we'll do is define our dummy operator. So here, start equals dummy operator, task ID equals start. And then ingest data, we have our ingest data Azure Data Factory run pipeline operator. I think this is in the running for the longest operator name, where we have our task ID, Azure Data Factory connection, and don't worry, I'll show you how to set that in the UI. And then we have our resource group name, factory name, which are those we set, Databricks DND and Azure Demo Factory, so make sure you have your resource group, customer pipeline, so customer extraction. That's our first Data Factory run job. Then we have our transform job, where we are transforming the clean data using the clean data pipeline. And this is also where you could use like task mapping and the dot expand method to maybe create new pipelines or have a bunch of operations run in parallel within the same DAG. So a lot of different ways you can extend this to kind of leverage some of Airflow's capabilities. And I just kind of want to make this quickly as a basic example, and then maybe a more complex example down the line. We'll see how this video does, because I don't know, not a lot of people seem to care about ADF, but if that's not true, then show me some love. ADF boys. Then we have store data, which is just our final ADF pipeline, where we're just going to store that data in our Postgres database. So our dependency chain is really simple. No real fancy schmancy stuff here, as we saw. Just start and then going through it step by step. So now we'll kick it over to the Airflow UI. After you're going to want to run good old Astro dev start. I already have it running, so I'm not going to do this. But here, just run Astro dev start to actually kick off your environment, build it, and then if we go over into our Airflow environment, we have here not our Azure Demo Factory environment. We can go into our DAG runs. So here Starts with empty operator, our ingest data. And so here you can see it's really actually just using an API request to interact with the Azure services. I think every Azure service really just uses an API request. And so you can see a lot of different JSON files here, the request URL. And really what it's doing is just building the request URL out of the information you'll set in the connection. So actually, one sec before I go in the DAG, I almost forgot the connection. So this one's a doozy you're going to need to set up. And actually, I'm just going to open up a generic one because it has a bunch of different values in it. So here, ADF, we have Azure Data Factory. So when you install that providers package, you'll install all these. You're going to need your client ID, your secret, and again, watch my previous video on how to manage ADF from Airflow for kind of full breakdown of these. But you're going to need a secret. You're going to need for your app role. You're going to need a tenant ID, subscription ID, resource group name, factory name. These two are writing in automatically, but the rest of these you'll find either on your like kind of information page for your ADF instance. And you're gonna have to create an app role via Azure Intra ID, not AD, but it's what it replaced, and then assign that to this, and then get that secret, that client ID, and paste it in here to actually establish the connection. Super difficult, super annoying, but you can do it, I promise. And then once you've worked through all the kinks there, you can go back into the DAG view. Apologies for cutting it up. We have our transform data task, which again, you'll see here, it's going to just give us request URLs where you'll see all the information, getting the status of that run ID, and a lot of this is redacted, I guess. So not the most visibility, other than, we'll tell you if it fails, but these aren't the most readable logs. And then finally, you just have storing data in Postgres. The one good thing though is that you have the pipeline run ID here, so you can always just reference this within the Azure ADF to actually troubleshoot it, and it just makes it easy via the URL builder here. But it still is, I guess, a little bit of split UI, so not the best, but there's some trade-offs here. So if you're struggling to manage Azure services directly from Airflow, consider using ADF to perform those actions kind of idempotently, and then have Airflow manage them through Airflow. So hope you found this video helpful. I thought it might be useful, even though people don't really love the ADF stuff. So I hope you did. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Data Guy out. Peace.